Welcome to the Listen and Speak podcast, where we get into it not to break someone down, but to build them up. I'm your host, Jahmaal Marshall, tackling burnout at the root with proven methods to 2x your time and maximize your productivity. Jump on this now. Q4, we're still running the 2024 accelerator discount, so make sure you hop on that, ladies and gentlemen. But this is not about me. This is about my guest, Jacob Roig. If you want to grow your revenue by 30% and your profits to over 50% in the next 30 days, this is who you want to contact. Guarantee results, we'll do it for free. He helps you create growth strategies for flow to pay you, earn profit, and for paid time off. He's one of the best in the business and somebody that I personally have actually worked with. And you guys know I'm really stringent on who I endorse. So without further ado, Jacob, how are you, sir?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. How can you be bad when you're on this podcast?
You can't be bad because we only bring quality people on here. But
Thank you.
I'm doing extremely well, man. Before we really get into it and delve into your story and where we want to go today, I have a question that I ask each of my guests, pretty much almost 99% of them. And that question is, what is your favorite genre of music? And how does it inform the way you go about life, both personally and professionally?
Mm. Man, that uh, is tough for somebody who, obviously with, I don't know if people can see it, but guitars in the background and music's been part of my life. But I grew up 40 miles from Detroit, so Motown is definitely near and dear to my heart. And what was the other part of that question? Because once you said music, man, I just got carried away.
How does it inform the way you go about life, both personally and professionally?
Mm. Great. Well, interesting because music, a song has different meanings for whoever is listening to it, whether it's a situation, a moment, a meaning between what we're doing and how I go about life is kind of like that because we have to make these little um, adjustments in life always, but we're confronting different things, but it's the same person that's doing it confronting these different things. So for me, music's about flow, and really life for me is also about flow. So it plays a big part in my life for sure.
I know it does. I've actually seen you and witnessed you play guitar. You actually are very multifaceted. Um, I want to, as we're gonna, really delve into your story, and what you're doing today, you've taken a very non-linear path, into business coaching, and you're also known on LinkedIn as a top business coaching voice, well within reason. Um, so tell me about young Jacob and where he got the acumen for actually a person wanting to know, what am I spending, what's coming in, what's going out, and more importantly, just the acumen to help people. Because long before I myself even hired you, I've been watching you for a few years. Where does that side of you come out where you don't just give the quality product, but you give a quality person?
Yeah, I think it started really young. Um, I grew up what some people would say on the other side of the tracks, which is, not uh, having the highest quality of things or life in you. And so, you learn to become independent quickly, or it eats you up. And so I did both. I got ate up and then I decided not to be eaten anymore. So I became very independent. And from an early age, I started doing my own thing for my own income. I, I did everything. I cut grass. I went to the store for the elderly people in the neighborhood because back then you knew everybody. And um, I did, I shined shoes. My grandfather helped me make a shoe shine kit. And I would literally sneak out of my house at night as a like 7, 8 years old and go into the neighborhood bars and shine shoes. So, you learn, and I had expenses as a shoe shiner. So I had to buy my equipment and I had to update it because if I ran out of shine, I couldn't shine a certain color of shoes. So I learned how to manage money a little bit unconsciously out of necessity. I think it started there. And in business, it just became a really acute moment when my first business was very successful,
Hmm.
and we were in meteoric rise mode. Um, and I had a mentor who became a coach, said, "How profitable are you?" And I thought I was highly profitable. And I kept referring to how much we had in the bank and how many sales we had. And he said, "Yeah, but how profitable are you?" And after delving into it, I realized that we weren't profitable at all. I wasn't paying myself because I believed you put everything back,
Hmm.
which is not something to believe, by the way. Um, and my company was making $75 per sale on a $4,000 sale. So if we slowed down for 6 weeks, we would have imploded. And so that taught me I need to do something really quickly. And so that's how I got started in pricing. And then I realized the benefits of it, how it built a foundation. It allowed me to move myself up and be profitable. But most importantly, because of what we're talking about today, mentally and emotionally, it transformed me from stressed and overwhelmed and wondering if I did the right thing, um, to feeling confident, to believing, and to knowing that if I kept on this track, that I was going to create something successful, and we did.
And man alive, have you? I want to backtrack to something you said because, um, you know, with this podcast, we have a pretty broad audience that is more trending towards niching, but everyone's not a business owner. So that's not this type of podcast. We have people who have careers, people who are mostly in the senior leader space, people who work in
Mhm.
HR, people who are in DEI, people who aren't even in corporate who listen to this podcast. And also, we do have business owners, but that's not everybody. And so, I want to speak the language of who is listening, and understanding, like, when you understand what your costs are, you also understand the value proposition. Even from a career standpoint, you're willing to settle for a whole lot less when you're going for an interview. So I want those who are in the career space to also, even as you're listening to this and you're hearing numbers and different things of what to charge and what your fixed and variable costs are, it's like, understand that for yourself. So when you go in an interview and they lowball you, it's just like, wait a minute, this is what I brought to the table. And when you a la carte that, that is what this is worth. And that actually takes a whole lot less stress off a person, from burning out, from bringing more to the table than is necessary, on a job, because recruiters and certain hiring managers in certain jobs will try to lowball you. So I kind of want everybody to hear, in the way that they'll receive it, what you're dropping here.
Yep. That's a great um, thing to bring up because it's not any different whether it's a business owner or somebody in their career or executive. It's about understanding your own value and worth, and then stepping into it, and then trust. You got to lean into trust and belief heavy. Um, so as an executive or somebody that's in management or working for a corporation and you're interviewing for a position, the first thing to understand is that they require your help or they wouldn't be looking for it. It's not the other way around. You're not going in needing something. It's an equal, you walk in at equal levels, and you have to embrace that mentally and emotionally, but also understand you have a certain lifestyle that you've chosen to live or one that you're aspiring to. And the only way you're going to get there is by, as we say in self-help and everything else, is first you start believing to achieving. You have to
Mhm.
put yourself emotionally, at least occasionally, in that position of where you're at. And then energetically, when we connect with it, it's understanding that we're worth that amount. And if you desire my help, the quality that I give, and knowing what I put into things, and I'm talking generalized like everybody, if you know what you put into it and you know what you give and you believe that it's worth something, then stand in that power and demand it. You don't have to demand angrily, but you just stand in the power and you demand it. And if it's a good fit, it will happen. The thing to understand mentally is that if it's not a good fit, it's not supposed to happen. It's like mistakes and problems, right? Sometimes they're supposed to happen so that we get to the right thing. And maybe this interview isn't the right one so that you can get to the right one.
I love that. that's speaking to the career people, but I also think it's speaking to the business owners. We both know and probably either been coached or, you're a business coach. I'm a master of the mind. So it's a little bit different, but people talk about be a master enroller. And I'll say this, and not so much from experience, but you can actually enroll a nightmare client. And you kind of, revenue may not be doing what you want it to do. And you think, man, I just need to get this enrollment, and they're willing to pay, but it's like that may not be the person that you really want to work with. So just much like you said, I want to affirm also from a business standpoint, don't always, take the hottest thing smoking, because it may even end up being a legal matter. If you're that one person that's willing to jump on the landmine that every other person in your profession wants to avoid, that's a good sign that you should avoid it too.
That's a great point. And we also have to identify like what's our main focus? Is it just money? If it is, then we may bounce around like a pinball because it works for a moment and then all of a sudden it doesn't work. But if you start pinballing a lot and you're just focused on the money, maybe it's not just about that money. And so the people that I engage with the most, that I've had the most success with, and even in my own experience, it's been a mixture of both. Like we aspire to a certain level of quality of life, but we also aspire to having a certain quality of work and work relationships that we carry. And a lot of it starts with understanding what are our terms and our boundaries for ourselves, and then getting into that and making sure that we not only say them, but we abide by them. And that's the work, really.
Jacob, now you're speaking my language. You said terms and boundaries.
Well, it impacts all of us. Like, and a lot of times with business owners, because I'm in that realm, but the same thing with executives and higher ups. It's like we have certain boundaries that we say, but living up to them, right, determines whether we feel like we're valuable, we're being used, we're not getting what we're worth, or we're not worthy. Like all of those are surrounded by making sure that you not only know what are my terms and boundaries for this workspace or what I'm doing or how I engage with people, and then living up to it.
On that note, and I want to be respectful of confidentiality, even though I have some clients who they tell everyone they're working with me, and some people like to keep it on the low. It's a mixed bag with the nature of what I do, but I was sharing with a client last summer. You know this person too, so I'm gonna be careful. But I told her, I said, non-negotiables that are renegotiated are not non-negotiables. And she looked like she wanted to punch me in the face during that session. But she had said afterwards, she said, Jahmaal, those words went into me like arrows. That's exactly what I needed to hear and what I needed to apply both on home front and into my business, um, and into my relationships. Because when you continue to renegotiate your non-negotiables, your boundaries, there's a faulty foundation there. And people can tell that, just a lot like what you're talking about, whether you're going into the interview space or you're building a business. I often say in a phrase that I've coined, the energy you lead with is the atmosphere you create. You create an atmosphere of insecurity and what's unsure, and people can pick up on that. And there are those who will either, let's say, pray for you, but there are also those who will prey on you. There's some snakes out there, a lot of them,
Amen.
unfortunately.
Amen to that. Well, again, it's really getting clear in what is it that we desire and what conditions do we want to put ourselves into. With business owners, a lot of them work themselves back into a corner where you're so busy that personal life gets neglected, whether it's your personal health, relationships, whatever. It's also the same thing with corporate or executives or that where they work themselves into a corner and they believe they have to live up to this certain thing, and it's not what they would choose. And it's really about understanding what is it that I choose and then demanding it first of ourselves. And because when we do it with ourselves and we live up to it, other people will follow suit. They always do. It's kind of like the Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world, right?
Mm.
And what I've experienced with that, because that's one of my favorite quotes, when you change, everything and everyone around you changes without them having to really do a whole lot. It's because of the space we carry. And like you said, people feel our energy and they either pray with us or pray on us. And it ties in with that big time because if you always say yes then people will always ask and you'll always say yes, and then it's always at your expense. As soon as you say no, a few people like, oh, why are you saying no or whatever. But the majority of people are like, oh, okay. And then we're like, that's all I had to do. And it's like, we had to do a lot to get to that. But yes, that's all we have to do.
Oh man, when you said that, Jacob, it just reminded me of a client. I'm still working with them, but we finished our phase one, and during that time, she's a senior leader in the tech space, and she also has a brand outside of her job, a very big booming brand. But she realized in a partnership that she had that she had taken on way too much and was taking her over capacity, and she had to own the fact that it was her narrative that she had created, that she had said yes to too much. Um, and when you bite off more than you can chew and you create that narrative, it could be out of a fear of rejection. It could be out of a desire to give. Empaths, the thing is, givers will give, takers will take. But when you
Yeah.
create that narrative, we have to take what is called extreme ownership. I've done this and I play a part in this. Now, how am I able to mitigate this? But I love the way those under the sound of your voice and my voice, they're hearing, okay, this is how you can avoid that. Your boundaries are for you first. When you respect them, other people will. And yeah, you work in profits and losses. There's going to be some profit and there's going to be some losses.
There absolutely is. And that's in everything, whether it's business, corporate life. Um, there's, there's wins and there's gains. And a loss doesn't necessarily mean we're losing something. Sometimes losing something helps you gain. What we have to understand, it's kind of like mistakes and failure. When you say that to people in a group, everyone agrees that they're good. You hear people on stages or books say how their biggest failure led them to their greatest success. But when they happen to us on an individual basis, we freak out, or think it's a really bad thing. And the one thing I've learned through my own experience in a lot of life challenges is that the mistakes and the failures that show up sometimes lead you to the best things, but maybe they were supposed to happen. Because if you're doing something and it's not working, why stay? Number one, like
Mm.
that's a common sense question, but
Right.
it's not as easily acted upon as it is. So sometimes we have to listen to what's not showing up or the resistance that we're getting because it's telling us. Everything gives us feedback.
Mm, I like that. And there's a phrase that I believe you coined, at least I see it in so much of your content as I follow you pretty closely, and it says road tested. And I always like to write when I'm able to interact with your content. You are road tested because of the way you carry yourself, not just online and in business, but also offline. Talk about some of those highs and lows that have formed Jacob into who he is.
Man, but I can start at birth, right? I was born 3 months premature in 1959, right? Which is a long time ago. But in a town of less than 5,000 people, I'm a walking miracle. That was the start of my life, right? My dad died at 5. It took a lot of physical abuse, took some sexual abuse. Um, saw a lot of bad things happen. Lived in, like I said, the other side of the tracks. I saw people doing drugs back, when in the 60s, and heroin was really big. And I saw somebody get stabbed and died as a young kid. And so I had all these things that exposed me, and I had a choice. I could either stay in that environment or I could go somewhere else and explore. And I chose to be an explorer. And so I went to the other side of the tracks and see how do they live? And I realized that, oh, I can live like that too. And they're no different than us. Sometimes they think differently, but that was it. So all these life lessons that happen, we all have challenges. Some are bigger than others and some uh, aren't, but they're all big challenges to us. And it's really like I get to choose how I respond and react to it. Now, sometimes reacting is automatic, but how I respond to it is different. And what I've learned to do is slow down and become aware, and then be able to make my choice much smarter and much calmer.
I certainly deem you a man of great discretion and wisdom. And it's not, I think we both know this is the digital age. anyone can show up anyway online. Um, and anyone who knows me knows I'm a discerner. I watch people. Long before I make an investment, I just watch people. Like, how are they? How are they with people? How are they with their family? You know, I think people, I share with you to your face, but I'll share with my whole audience. I didn't hire Jacob for his business acumen. I mean, he's one of the best in the business. I hired him I watched the way he was with his wife and his wife, Tina. I'll be discreet here because I don't know how much you want to share, but
You
she's
can
had a
share
lot of
anything.
complications. And he's exemplified what it means to love someone in sickness and in health. And for me, I'm a different type of buyer, that exemplified to me. I think I can trust this guy with the results that I want to get from a different standpoint. And everybody may not buy like that. Some people impulse buy, some people buy strictly on the numbers, some people buy strictly on percentages. I'm a, I'm an empath, so that the other side of my brain is, the left side is churning a little bit more than the right sometimes. And I'm still logical. But I want to talk a little bit about that, your character. And because when you say road tested, to me, road tested means a person who has character, not just a person who knows how to write, and anyone can hire a copywriter and present themselves a certain way. But where there's a depth of authority is when that presentation goes offline. Because if my buyers are like me, and if my audience is anything like me, I want them to be able to even engender trust with the people who come to listen and speak.
Thank you for that. Um, a quick paraphrase of it. My wife was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, and a year and a half later, um, when it was almost near the end, she got a double lung transplant. That was 2 years ago, almost to the day. Um, and caregiving, there really isn't like a playbook that I knew of, because you kind of get thrown into it.
Yeah.
Maybe thrown's too harsh of a word, but you choose to step into it, I should say. And it's not easy, because everything is about the other person. Like, I play tennis, and when I'd go, that was my outlet, right? 2 days a week, I'd get to go play tennis for a few hours. And even when I went there, the first question, out of appreciation of myself, and out of compassion and everything, is, how's your wife? How's your wife? What's going on with your wife? So everything's about the other person. So you have to really understand how to be good with yourself and do that. But the gifts that I got from caregiving were as amazing as anybody that appreciates that, like you did, that said, hey, man, I really appreciate the way that you showed up. Um, Man, it gives you so much insight. You learn a lot about yourself, like how much you can take, because every day it challenges you. It's like, um, it definitely tests your commitment to I do, right? Because we say I do at the best of time. We're not prepared for the worst. And when the worst shows up, it can be pretty bad. And all you're doing, you feel like all you're doing is giving, until you open up and you realize what you're getting back as well is really a deep insight into yourself and what commitment and unconditional means. And that's really what it did. And I also learned to love the messes, which is all the stuff.
Mhm.
I say this often, but excuse my language for anybody that this upsets, but all the stuff that used to piss me off, right? I started loving it because it reminded me she's there. Like, oh, that mess. It used to be like, why is that mess there? Now it's like, oh man, how awesome is it that that mess is there?
Mm.
I learned to appreciate just sitting next to this person, not saying a word, watching some mindless TV show, because I got to be with this person that day. So the lessons it taught me went deep, but it also, like, we're the same person when we show up in whatever it is we do, whether we're working for someone else. And even as a business owner, I'm working for somebody else. I showed up differently, and my clients saw it. And I said, ooh, there's something big here. So what you learn, I learned to lean into love. And what you do is you see everything that's right and beautiful, and all the other stuff is still there, and it shows up sometimes, but I quickly let it go. And it's like, man, I just leaned into love, and it it makes your relationship the best that it can be, but it also cascades into other relationships. And so it's been definitely, I could say, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but it's been a great gift for us.
What an honest and vulnerable and transparent answer. And I just want my audience just to pause to kind of sit with that. Obviously, it's a podcast, so you don't have too much dead space. But I hope that even if you need to pause Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Amazon, whatever you listen to us on, just sit with that for a second, because that to me represents real, unconditional love and something that forms character. Anybody can be a great business owner, business mogul, CEO, senior leader, wherever you find yourself on the rung of that. But your character is who you are when you're loving someone at their lowest. And it just it spoke volumes to me about you. And another thing that spoke volumes even before Tina took ill was I noticed even when you were early on, when you had a lot of clients, you had a way of at a certain time you logged off, you were not available. And I would love when you would post pictures of the family and your grandkids. It's like I like this is why he does what he does. It's like the growing the revenue by 30%, the profits over 50%, the numbers. Like I know to you money is binary. It's like he's doing this to create a life to be present to the people that matter most to him. Talk to us about that as we're kind of coming to a close here.
Yeah, thanks. You really do got to connect with a reason bigger than us, if whenever possible. And it doesn't have to be family, but if it is for you, then that's a really beautiful, special place. Um, when it's bigger than us, there's meaning behind it. We're doing it for more than just us. Because if it's just for us, it's easy to take some time off or to not do it when we know we need to.
Yeah.
But when you have a meaning that's bigger than us, there's a lot of things that can happen, which is, yeah, you definitely push when you need to because you know that, hey, this is for this or these people or to be able to experience this. And all of those apply. Um, but it also, we can determine or choose who and what we spend our time with and how we spend our time. So being a business owner, I get to build my business around the things that I like. And one of the things, I read it in a book, but some of the most successful people plan their time off first and then build their business around their time off. And I thought, whoa, like I got chills just saying that. That was like a big aha for me. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And so that's what I've been doing for a long time is I plan my time off, what I'm going to be doing with my time, and then I build my business around it and figure out how to make it work. And are there days where some days I'm working later than I probably prefer to? Yeah, but not that many, not that many. And so it's I call it the Marie Antoinette thing, and I don't even know if it's true or not, but you can have your cake and eat it too.
I love it, man. As we're kind of slowly coming to a close here. I know that you do a lot of mindset work. You even have some videos that I have actually typed on your video that scared the crap out of me. You with the stick, and I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my audience is probably like, what are they talking about? Like, you have to follow him on LinkedIn to see it for yourself. But um, I know that in what you do, because I think sometimes people think when someone's on the number side of things, they're thinking, oh, boring. Numbers and systems and processes are important, but a lot of your mind and your intuition goes into what you have built out. And so, can you give the audience like three takeaways, not only in what you have built, but what do you want them to take away? Not just knowing like their fixed and variable costs. We're going to put all that in the show notes, y'all. But what do you want them to take away and what their mindsets need to be? Whether you're building a career, the career you want, or you're building the life you want through your business, or you're listening, you're aspiring to that. Because we got some young folks that listen this week, and I'm thankful for them.
Yep. One, show up. My mentor used to say, pay attention, which is like be aware. So show up. When you show up, be present and give the best that you have. You're only asked to do that. You're not asked to be better than you are. And some days I'm better than I was the day before, and some days I'm not, but I always show up my best and I always take time to be prepared. So preparation is would be the second thing, which is prepare for your stuff, have a plan, know what you're doing. even with your career or your business, where are you taking it? Where would you like it to go? And
Mm,
then figure out what you got to do and then show up for it. Right. And the last thing is take the time to slow it down and enjoy the steps that you're willing to take. Like celebrate those little wins because they mean something. It means that you're moving yourself forward one little shuffle step or one little hop. But take
mm.
the time to really enjoy what you're doing and realize, man, how amazing is it, especially with a business or even a career. I got an idea that I thought I'd do this. You took some action to put that in place and you're doing it. Life's awesome.
I love that. The audience has, I think they're going to get a wealth of knowledge from you in this episode. Um, I rebel against the grain of like asking people where someone can find them because people have new websites, new funnels, stuff coming up out the wazoo. Now, granted, the team at Podfixer is amazing. Hire them if you're an aspiring podcaster. Hire the team at Podfixer. They are phenomenal. They do amazing show notes. They know stuff I don't know, and I do a lot of research. But tell us, Jacob, anything that you want my audience to know about you, where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, and any last takeaway you want to leave them with.
Yeah, well, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm the most active socially. You can also look up my name and go to my website. It's myname.com, jacobroig.com. Um, I'm open to asking and answering any questions that you think would help you take one step forward. I'm pretty free if it's a good connection with sharing what I know because I always know it'll come back. Um, but be willing to take that risk. Take one more step that you've been thinking about. Quit thinking about it and just kind of go for it, and you might surprise yourself.
All right, folks, go ahead and sit with that. As we close out, Jacob, I just want to say thank you so much for blessing Listen and Speak.
Jahmaal, appreciate it. Grateful.